Hello, Cherie. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Yeah, oh, thank you, Katie. I'm happy to be here.
So Cherie and I are laughing because we tried to record this session yesterday and we had lots of technological issues, and we didn't realise that until we got through the whole discussion, and only to find out that the camera wasn't zooming over to Cherie as she was talking, so all you got was my face while Cherie was talking. So let's hope that technology works for us today. But thank you so much, Cherie. I really wanted to have you in the series Conversations That Matter, because I think the tarot is such a fascinating and powerful tool for people to understand more about themselves. And recently you did a personal reading for me, and it was just one of the most profound things I've experienced. And it was so, my expectations weren't high going in. I mean, I thought it would tell me something useful about myself and my situation, but I was amazed at how quickly you cut to the heart of the issues, and how almost before I even had the cards laid out on the table, you were reading back to me what they were saying. So I was intrigued and fascinated at how accurate the system is, how quickly it can get to the issues you're dealing with. And so I'd really just love you to tell us a bit more about how it works, what it is, because there's so many misconceptions out there about it, being used as a fortune telling tool, and people tend to think of, the gypsies in the old days traveling around with their crystal ball and doing tarot readings, whereas actually, as you're about to say, it's not intended to tell the future. So yeah, I'll hand it over to you to tell us more about the tarot, how it is, what it is, and how it works.
Okay. Okay, so in a nutshell, it's basically the tarot is a tool to access the subconscious, and it makes the subconscious conscious, pretty much. And so basically, there's 78 cards in the deck, and they represent little snippets of human experiences, different human experiences, and ones that every single person will experience, during a lifetime. And basically they are like little mirrors. So when you are actually going for a reading, it is accessing directly your subconscious, and it represents what is going on for you in that moment. So basically, the tarot reader is literally just like a translator. They're just the person who is seeking, questions or answers, shuffles the cards, and the idea is that whatever is going on subconsciously for them, they will, because they will attract the energy of the certain cards that apply to them. And in that way, then when the cards are laid out in a spread, the tarot reader then literally interprets what is going on. So the subconscious is made conscious.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating. And so what you're saying is that you are simply acting as a translator of what the cards are saying on behalf of the person you're reading for. And I think for a lot of people it's difficult to understand how their subconscious mind can communicate through cards. But my understanding from talking to you is that it's the symbolism that your subconscious mind is drawn to on each of those cards, right? There's a certain energy that each card carries, and
yes. So I guess like the prime example would be, if you went to an art gallery and different images conjure up different emotions, so therefore it's a different energy, and so each card has a certain energy about it, and we because we are energy beings, we are automatically attracted to that energy. Yeah, and that's how it gets represented.
Yeah, it's fascinating that and I think that's the big missing piece that a lot of people find difficult to get their head around when they're thinking of tarot or spiritual tools like read cards and oracle cards and those kind of things, is that I know that I personally found that difficult to understand, was how is my selection of the cards being steered by my subconscious mind? It feels, in the beginning it seems so random. It seems, yeah, but I'm just opening up the pack and these cards are coming out. But there's as you say, it's a very powerful thing that you're drawn to certain cards, and the way you set up the tarot reading, you're allowing the people to choose the cards that way. And I think it's the fact that getting people to get their head around the fact that we are actually energetic beings having, the spiritual beings having a human experience. So the fact that we are actually energetic beings, and that our thoughts have a certain energetic field associated with them, and that's translated through the cards. So I think that's a big shift for a lot of people to make, but maybe you could say a bit more about that.
Okay. Well, I think it all comes down to someone's perception or interpretation of events, really, because I think I've said before, everyone has had experiences where they that they could be perceived as coincidental or random, just by chance, or is it? That is the question. And the only thing that shifts is the perception of that, making it drawing the meaning together to make it mean something, or just leaving it open and random. And that is simply it. However, the same things are actually still occurring. It's just a perception that is different.
Yes. So we've grown up thinking that everything around us is purely random and coincidental, whereas those of us that have been walking the spiritual path for a long time are sort of aware of the fact that our reality is reflecting our inner world, and what we what I've come to understand is that everything in our reality is reflecting back to us, where we still have work to do, where we're not healed, or where we're still carrying childhood wounds, and so we keep experiencing certain patterns recurring in our life. And when you get that feeling of, gosh, I thought I was done with that issue in my life, and now there's another person bringing that same issue to me. Yes. And it's the meaning that we attach to that. You could think of that as, oh, it's really random and it's so annoying that this pattern keeps occurring in my life. Or, as the cards, I think, are trying to help us understand, is that our life is simply reflecting back to us, where we have some healing to do. And the tarot is a tool that cuts straight through to what those issues are, and where we can find more peace, and find what are the things we can do in our life to try and stop those patterns reoccurring. Is that how you would say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because the major themes that are always happening, they are usually kind of indicated by the major arcana, because the tarot is divided into the major arcana and the minor arcana. And so the major arcana is kind of like those big, deeper, each card, there's 22 of them, and each one of them represents like an archetypal human experience or influence. For example, it would be, the mother, the father, the deaf, the belief systems, the teacher. There's different themes. That's what I'm looking for. So that is when the major arcana, like cards, come out. That's always an indicator where the deeper stuff is happening. And then you have the minor arcana, which is the rest of the cards, which kind of zoom in a little bit on that, and they kind of like the details of how those things can be playing out in someone's life.
Right.
At that particular moment. Because one thing I want to emphasize is that people do have the power to choose the future. This is basically just a representation of the energy, at play for that person at that moment.
Yes.
So neither are, nothing is either positive or negative. It just is what is happening. And once you, the beauty of the tarot is once you make that really conscious, you have the power to then be able to make changes, because it makes it much easier to know, oh, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah. And every person has that ability, or has inner guidance. And sometimes, we're used to ignoring it, or we're just so overwhelmed, we're confused, so we're like, oh, I don't know what the truth is. So basically, if you're very skilled, you can access that and get your answers and from yourself, or this is another way to just shortcut.
Yes. So I think, as you and I have discussed before, that if you're someone who spends a lot of time in self-reflection or meditation or slowing down the mind enough to allow your intuition and guidance, your own guidance, to come through, then you might already be able to find these answers yourselves more easily. But most of us are so caught up in the busyness of life that we have not really developed that close relationship with our intuition.
Yeah.
And the tarot is a tool that basically comes and cuts through straight to the heart of the matter and tells you exactly what you're dealing with in that moment.
That's right.
And I thought it was interesting when I did my reading, I think it was like, how many cards are there in one reading that you do?
Well, with the spread that I do, it's 10.
10. And I think I had 4 or 5 major arcana cards come through.
Yeah, when that's happening, it means there's big shifts happening.
Yeah, and you were able to tell me exactly what was preventing a very positive shift.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I just found that intriguing. And when you read my cards to me, the tears were flowing, because it was my truth, and I knew that what you were saying was reflecting back to me what I needed to hear. I knew it intuitively, but it's having someone tell you, someone who's neutral to your situation, and just reflecting back, like you said before, the cards are little mirrors reflecting back to you what you need to see, or what you need to be conscious of. And just that confirmation that, wow, I need to do something about that. It was just the push I needed to do something about the blocks I have in my life. So that's what I just found really powerful about it. And you have explained before previously also that the major arcana cards, which are the as you said, the big human experiences that appear when there's something significant happening in our life, that they start with the Fool and go through. The first card is the Fool, and the Fool goes on a journey through to wholeness. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. So with the major arcana, there's 22 cards. The Fool being 0, and that 22nd card is called the World. Okay. So the Fool is, I think, the essence of it is, it literally is starting at point 0, where everything is potential. So with that, you have innocence, because you don't have preconceived ideas, and then you don't have fear. It taps into that just kind of think trust in oneself, but it's also it's kind of, you know, getting excited about the unknown. I mean, there's many layers and levels, but if you just kind of get that as a feeling, it's like the clean slate and anything possible. Yeah. And then basically the idea is that the fool has to experience all these different you know, major themes in life to understand what it is to live the human experience. And that's why it ends up with the world, which is completion and fulfillment, wholeness. Yeah, so you can't get to that point until you've been through everything.
Right.
And it's not always pleasant. That's why, you know, and each kind of experience has kind of like I don't want to say positive. Well, you could kind of say positive and negative, but it's like it's just the better way is to say that there's a scale of understanding a certain experience.
Yes, and a scale of growth. So it's showing us areas where we need to grow more, but like you know, you've said before, the tarot doesn't hold back. It just shows you exactly all your blind spots, what you need to look at. And so it's not really for the faint-hearted, but it is for you if you're willing to look at your stuff and see how you are blocking your own destiny or your own fulfillment or your own joy, your own wholeness of becoming the world, you know, the completion. And
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why when I've studied the tarot, that's why the course that I did with the lovely Kim Eshamel, that amazing woman, the course that I studied goes for a year. And the reason why it is so lengthy and kind of intense is each card has to be explored deeply. So, and for me as a tarot reader, I've had to go through and dive into every single kind of card and, you know, explore my own truth about my own experience with that card.
Yes.
It's like doing the gardening, you know.
Pulling out all the weeds.
Yeah, exactly. So, which is, yeah, and the only way to be a kind of, you know, a really effective tarot reader is to have gone through that myself, you know, because I can only, you know, offer someone, you know, information when I truly understand what it is about.
Yes. So it's interesting that you had to spend a whole year doing a deep dive into every single one of the 78 cards. Yeah. Because I did notice that when you did my reading, it was almost like you laid the cards out and there was no delay between you needing to read them or anything. You just knew straight away, okay, these cards are telling you this, this, and this. It was like the fact of you just, because you know the energy of that card and you have experienced all the different layers of what that card can mean, so you could get straight to the issues that I was dealing with. Yeah, so I did find that, you know, I thought you'd have to look at the whole spread and see what they were sort of, how they were interacting, but no, it was more just the essence of the energy that you've got to know through working with them so closely.
Yeah, and that is like really the magic, you know, over time and experience, you know, it's reading the story, you know, because each you know, tarot spread, it's well, like say for example your reading, it's like that's your story right there in one. So it's almost like it's like a photo, like a snapshot. That's where you're at right now.
Yes. Yeah, interesting. Wow. And it's interesting because, you know, people talk about how there's no scientific evidence for the tarot to be real and all of that, but it's just one of those things I think we have to agree that we don't yet understand how it actually works. But you've told me previously that the accuracy is just so high, and it's so unlikely that when you sit down with someone and you do a reading for them, that it's not going to reflect what they're dealing with at that point in time. And so that to me is scientific evidence, because when you experiment with, you've read for hundreds of people, right?
Yeah.
Over your the time you've been practicing, and you've told me previously that every time you get an accurate outcome for somebody that really triggers an emotional response in them, because they know that these cards are telling them the truth.
That's right. Yeah, and often I think, like you were saying, it's almost like a gentle, oh, I've just hit the spot, And I think, it can be a little bit overwhelming, sometimes, or unexpected too, is probably another way.
Mm.
But like I think I've said to you before, the more I do it, the more it confirms to me the validity of it, because it just, I just keep getting more and more amazed at, how accurate things can be.
Yes, and so maybe you could tell us a bit about how you came to embrace the tarot as your main go-to tool. What was it that made you finally decide to really run with it?
Okay, well, I was always drawn to it from a young teenager, and I've kind of, it's almost like I've merely picked up the book and then, put it away, and then years later, tried reading another book and then put it to the side, and then it was, probably, well, I think, a few years ago now, where I met a friend of mine who led me to my teacher, which I think is, that common case of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Yeah, so that's basically how I got into it, and I was ready, but perhaps because of the nature of the course that I did, maybe I was only ready then to actually have the deep dive in myself.
Yes. Yeah, you just weren't ready to do that and to be an interpreter for someone else previously in your life. And when you finally got to the stage, because you've been working as a designer and so it's only recently that you've decided to go all in with the tarot reading.
Yeah.
But there was that sudden self-knowledge, I guess, that yep, I'm ready now. This is it.
Yeah, because I mean, before I probably didn't have the just the ability to be able to go in and be 100% honest with myself.
Yes. Interesting.
I think maybe that was probably the delay there. Like, okay, now let's unveil it all.
That is interesting, because I know that I've met people in my life who have said that they are not ready to look at their stuff, and and I know that, I guess for me personally and you get to a point in it, you don't really want to look at it, because you're scared of the can of worms that's going to come out, or the change you're going to have to make that feels scary, but there comes a certain point where you just like, right, I just need to know the truth. What do I need to do? And so I guess if you're at that point in your life where you're like, oh, I'm just tired of these same struggles, these same issues, the same battles, or the same lack of clarity, the same cluelessness, the tarot is the one that is going to just lay it out for you and say, this is what's holding you back. This is what your issues are.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially those repeating patterns. I keep stubbing my toe on the same thing. Why?
Yes, and those patterns keep coming back because they're seeking resolution, they're seeking wholeness.
Yeah, and a lot of it is they will keep coming back, and that's why often we can flip the same cards over and over. I've had that with sometimes repeat customers. Over time, I'm like, you got that card last time?
That is interesting, because my sister was telling me she was dealing with a big problem and she needed answers, and I think she's got her own tarot deck, and she laid out the cards, I think 4 or 5 times, and they gave her the same message each time, with slightly different cards but the same message. And you know, if you need scientific evidence for that, I mean, what are the chances of getting the same outcome out of 78 cards each time? So there is definitely something powerful about your energy, your subconscious mind is communicating to you energetically through the cards. There's no doubt about it.
Yes, absolutely.
And we also talked yesterday about how, you know, the conscious mind is like the tip of the iceberg, which we can see just above the surface, and then you've got the whole subconscious mind below the surface, which drives our behavior and, you know, the decisions we make, except that it's subconscious. We don't know about how it's driving us, because we only know this much. And like you said at the very start, the tarot is a way of bringing what's under the surface to the surface for us to consciously recognize it and work with it. So yeah, it's just amazing that you can then, those recurring patterns are just your subconscious mind trying to bring that to your conscious awareness. And
that's right. Well, if you think about it, I mean, in the physical world, we can, you know, keep coming up with the same things, but that's like, it's exactly the same as flipping the same card over. It's like the signs are everywhere. It's just whether we want to actually look.
Yes, pay attention to them.
Yeah. So yeah, whether it's a tarot card or, you know, situations, you know, it's like yourself is actually trying to, you know, the universe is trying to tell you. You know?
Yes. That there is a path to wholeness, and this is the way if you just pay attention to the signs. Yeah. So that's what I love about the tarot. It's just such a powerful way to cut through all the uncertainty and to get very clear in that moment what is, you know, significant for you to look at. And so you are planning to use the tool, the tarot, as the main go-to tool in your business, which is called happyheartstarot.com. And you were saying to me previously that you're hoping to use it as part of your own coaching process in helping people understand what the issues are, and then to give them support following on from that to deal with what the cards are telling them.
Yes. So I think, you know, like you were saying, the tarot is a beautiful way to shortcut, you know, access the subconscious. So, you know, it just becomes really clear, what am I dealing with here? And often I've found myself that, you know, after a tarot reading, you know, sometimes some pretty intense things can come up, and you know, everyone, you know, can choose a different way to get support, to, you know, whether they want to make changes or just get support with certain things. Yeah, so I'd like to offer assistance to be able to help people move through whatever is going, you know, has come up.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's been your biggest frustration previously is being able to show people, look, these are the big blocks you have in your life, but then being a tarot reader, not, you know, you are marketed as a tarot reader, not as someone who can then help you work through the issues that come out with that, which is why you've set up your own business now, to be able to not just be a tarot reader, but to then offer the ongoing support that follows up from what the cards tell them.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah.
And so people can find out more from your website about the consultations you offer.
Yeah. So that's at happyheartstarot.com. Yeah, or on Facebook, just Happy Hearts. Yeah.
So you have a Facebook page, Happy Hearts Tarot?
Oh, it's just Happy Hearts, actually.
Happy Hearts, right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a beautiful title, because you're all about helping people find their way back to a happy heart.
Exactly. Yeah.
To peel back the layers of grief or whatever it is that's holding them back for that natural expression of happiness from the heart.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Beautiful. So I know that on your website, because I've had a look at it, it's beautiful, and you explain how you can help give people purpose, clarity, and direction. And that's sort of what your main focus is, helping people get that clarity so they can move forward in life with whatever, whatever they need to be doing.
Yeah. Yes, because often I think, like we've been talking about, people, well, there can, be many different scenarios, but sometimes because everything is overwhelming, that's how the tarot helps get the clarity, because you are just straight in there.
Yep.
And then well, sometimes people kind of are at a different stage where they have direction, but then they have the blocks or things like that. So either way, it's like it's an unraveling to get straight to the heart of everything.
Yes. Beautiful. So, yes, everyone please go to Cherie's website at happyheartstarot.com. See Cherie also does online readings, and it's incredible that you've said the accuracy of an online reading is identical as a face-to-face reading, which is another one of those quantum things that we can't understand but is real.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so you're moving more in the online tarot reading space, which is fantastic, so that people can reach you from anywhere, anytime, and get a reading from you.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Cherie, and for doing it over again with me today after our rocky start yesterday. But it's lovely to see you, and thank you so much. And hopefully this has been helpful for everybody. And yes, if they want to reach out, they know where to find you.
Excellent. Oh, thank you so much, Katie. It's been my
Thanks, Cherie. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.